RuneScape is full of items that we can't obtain. From JMod only AGSs that kill anyone anywhere, to 9mm revolvers. I know that sounds like private server stuff, but it actually exists in our iteration of old school RuneScape. But more on those later. Now, everyone knows RuneScape has 11 gear slots, but there's actually a 12th gear slot called the Jaw slot, first mentioned and used by Jagex on the 30th of May 2019 in Pulse 67. In the news update it said the Barbarian Assault role icons are now put in your Jaw slot. This change will allow you to wear capes within a Barbarian Assault game. The Jaw slot is a hidden slot used in Clan Wars, Barbarian Assault and Soul Wars, but some players worked out they could smuggle Jaw slot items out, but its basic function is to allow visual effects to be placed on your character. For example, during a Soul Wars game, the red and blue icon beneath your feet is created by using an item in your Jaw slot. And this is where things get funny. Players could actually smuggle this Jaw slot item out of Soul Wars, which is why you may have seen players running around with red or blue icon effects outside of the minigame. So I was going to show you how to perform this smuggle, and I went looking for footage of people with the blue icon under their feet, and stumbled upon a good friend of the channel, Colonello, where he talks about this glitch a little bit and then goes on to talk about how he can get in trouble for explaining how to do the smuggle, so I am not going to tell you how to do it. But just like he says, it's to do with Soul Wars or Group Iron Men. But that's not the best part. Because the player couldn't physically take the item off themselves, they had to get an NPC to do it. And that's where the Chaos Elemental comes in. The Chaos Ele has a special attack that will unequip items the player is wearing if they have inventory space. And seeing as the Jaw slot is identical to a normal gear slot, the Chaos Ele is able to unequip the player of their blue icon. Unfortunately, no item is placed in the player's inventory, but it's funny to see how our game's spaghetti code works. There are literally hundreds of unreleased things in RuneScape, so I can't cover them all. But let's talk about some of the craziest ones. This one I'm super excited for. Today's video is sponsored by Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans is set in a fantasy-themed persistent world where the player is a chief of a village. Clash of Clans tasks players to build their own village using the resources gained from attacking other players' villages, earning rewards, buying them with medals, or by producing them on their own. I've got my village going here, and I am a massive fan of Supercell games. There's always something to do in Clash of Clans, whether it's attacking someone else's base, defending your own, upgrading your buildings, or joining in with clan battles. I can assure you this is a game you definitely don't want to sleep on. Give it a go, it's completely free to play. So why not give it a go? Scan the QR code here or click the link in the description. At the start of the video, I spoke about unreleased or unobtainable things in RuneScape. First of all, you've been listening to it. Every song in this video is an unreleased song from within the game code. Maybe one day they'll be added, or maybe this is one of the few times the masses will ever hear them. There's something quite beautiful about that. But let's go on to the story of a JMod who snuck his own pet into the main game. An unreleased pet called the Karamthahulu, which was going to be a pet you got for completing Rum Deal. The creator, Mod Wilson, decided to put his pet in the main game, so he could take it along with him to Pest Control, where other players were able to see the pet. Karamthahulu are obtainable as an inventory item when killing zombie pirates and zombie swarms. But originally this item caused some serious issues. While not possible to encounter under normal circumstances, an oversight related to the Karamthahulu item meant that it was possible to encounter the unreleased pet as a result of the player dying with the item in their inventory, causing the pet to appear at the place of their death and wander around for a short time before disappearing. While this oversight was present since the launch of the Rum Deal quest in 2005, it was not known to have been discovered until early January 2008. It was eventually fixed and removed in old school RuneScape in 2014. Mod Wilson did get his pet in the game eventually, but in a slightly different manner than it was originally intended. When summoning was released, the pet was used for a summoning monster called the Karam Overlord, and that is way easier to say than whatever it was called previously. It requires 58 summoning and attacks your target with melee or range. Interestingly, the examined text pre-summoning release was, "I will call him Squiddy, and he shall be my Squiddy, and he shall be mine." Now that might sound a bit familiar to some of you old school RuneScape players, and that's because the Chaos Fanatic says, "I shall call him Squidgy, and he will be my Squidgy," which are both of course references to Finding Nemo, where Dory says squishy instead of squiddy or squidgy. I didn't think I'd be talking about Finding Nemo when I started this video, I will tell you that. The next item up is Farming Helper Do Not Add. Yep, that is the name of the item, Farming Helper Do Not Add. It was an unobtainable item added alongside the Big Cats and WWF event. This was a collaboration that Jagex and the Worldwide Fund for Nature did. It was very similar to one of the holiday events they do for like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, and so obviously a few new NPCs and items got added. And within the event you'd have to do some farming. Presumably it was used by Jagex moderators to test the farming mechanics of the event. It had a right click option of cheat, which I'm guessing allowed them to bypass that part of the minigame so they could debug things further inside. Despite the very clear instructions in the item's name, it was ultimately added to the game and not removed until the end of the event. The Scythe of Vitur, the Armadillo Godsword, the Rubber Chicken, and the Rotten Carrot. These items are used during bot busting streams Jagex do, and they have the ability to kill a player anywhere, ban them, and loot their bank. Thank God it doesn't say do not add at the end of those items. Imagine what those items would do in the wrong hands. How about you do not subscribe right now? Do what a J-mod would do. And the 9mm revolver. I mentioned it at the start of the video and I'm sure you guys are thinking, what? I've never heard of that. It's an interesting one. It's a joke item put in by Jagex when players attempted to spawn item IDs using cheat engine software. I don't know if this is still around, but I remember being a kid back in the day using cheat engine on loads of games and being able to spawn my own stuff or change how much money I had in game. I never knew it worked on Runescape, but apparently in the early days of Runescape, cheat engines did work. And so Jagex decided to add an item ID called the 9mm revolver. The item ID is 6205 and the examine text is kills people. But as I mentioned, this was all just a troll by the J-mods. Instead of a 9mm revolver, the player would receive a fish-like thing. That's the item you get when doing the Evil Bob random event. There's actually about 20 to 30 of these fake jokey items, some of them called Pretty Girl, Waste Disposal, Nezichen's Mum, whoever that is, Mobile Phone. And interestingly, they all have the icon of a pink skirt. Just like the 9mm revolver, if you tried to spawn them in, they would just give you some sort of useless item. But it didn't stop there. The player would also receive a brown fish, which was called a hex edit detected. And the examine option on this fish would say, your IP has been logged and passed to customer support. Jagex used to give you an item saying you are about to be banned. This item could be the rarest item in the whole game. If anyone's ever heard of anyone with a brown fish, let me know. This leads us to a really cool fact about the Abyssal Whip and Granite Maul that I've never heard anyone talk about. Players used hex editors to manipulate the game code into revealing these two weapons before they were even announced by Jagex. Something that if happened in today's game could cause some serious market manipulation. And Jagex have since become wise to that. While developing the Hunter skill, the skill was under the codename Hex Editor. There are so many more interesting stories and items I could talk about, so if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, and if we hit 2k likes, I'll do a follow-up. And if there's any weird items or stories you've heard about, drop them in the comment section for me to read. I absolutely love this stuff. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.